Good evening, Kirkland. Good evening. It's exciting to be here tonight to be able to speak to you and to be able to bring you a message from the Bible. I've been worshiping here for a really long time. It was funny, I was thinking about it. Posey just started 4th grade this year. I started worshiping at Kirkland in 4th grade. Is that a trip or what? That is so weird. I remember actually doing a flying karate kick into someone in the cry room back there in 4th grade, actually. But I shouldn't have done it. I'm sorry. Weird memory. But no, you guys are family to me. Obviously, I've grown up here. I've been here for a long, long time. I love you guys so much. And it's because of that I'm just so excited to share this message with you tonight. You guys have been amazing to me and my family this last year when we adopted our baby Juniper. A lot of you here helped us in a fundraiser for that baby, did amazing things. We just owe you guys so much, and you've given us so much, and we're just thankful. So, but anyways, I've got a ton of material to get through tonight, so I'm going to start cooking. Like Brent mentioned, I've been thinking about this for like 9 months, he said, so you'd think I have probably too much information at this point to share in an hour. So I had to whittle it down a lot. So we're just going to hit the gas and try and get through this material that I've put out here for us tonight. So, ultra for Christians. So as Lyle mentioned, ultra marathon, ultra running. It used to be where a marathon, 26 miles, was like a big deal. When I was a kid and I heard people that ran marathons, I was like, man, I can't even believe that you can do that. 26 miles? I thought like some people, like if you ran farther than that, you might die, right? That's kind of what I heard. And so then eventually, though, 26 miles became like no big deal. And then 30 became like the new thing, right? Let's do a trail run. Let's do 30 miles. And then a little while later, 30 is not so hard anymore. Let's do 50 miles. And then for some reason, they jumped straight from 50 to hundreds. And I'm not sure how the math works there. Like, you'd think you'd go for 60. But no, like it just goes straight to hundreds. And then now it's at 200s and 200 pluses. And, you know, the funny thing is, as humans learn what their limits are, like the limit no longer becomes like so crazy. Like the bars moved, right? Like a 4-minute mile used to be like, you know, like people didn't know if it was even physiologically possible. And now teenagers are hitting 4-minute miles, right? It's like the new norm. Like it's become like, once it happens, it's like, oh, we can do that. And so then like it doesn't become this big deal. So this is going to be using this kind of like endurance race of ultra running as a template for what Paul tells us racing is in the New Testament. And I'm not going to let us off the hook tonight. So fair warning. I really want us to like dwell in what an endurance race looks like, because it's a tough race, okay? One of the arguably hardest endurance races right now is called the Barclay Marathon. And it's put on by this guy. This guy is clearly probably not like one of the runners. This guy is like, I think he put it on because he kind of thought it would be funny to see if he could make a course that was so hard that people really couldn't even finish it. And he only lets 40 people race it every year, and no one actually knows how to sign up for the race. But somehow, like, it kind of secretly happens, but elite level endurance runners get into his race anyways, and he always lets in someone that isn't an elite level runner that he knows is going to fail, and he calls them the sacrificial lamb, and he thinks it's funny just to see them race. Anyways, the race the last 2 years hasn't even had a winner. The race is won. No one's completed the race. It's about 100 miles, but like it's just crazy. No one knows the actual distance because he doesn't tell anyone. No, he doesn't give anyone like the course map. They don't even know when the race starts. It kind of just goes, it starts when he blows a trumpet. And that could be at any time in the day, right? It's just a crazy race. In fact, this guy, Gary Robbins, he's made a movie about his attempt to win the Barclay Marathon. It used to be on YouTube. It's a crazy story. Okay, this is a guy who's got the fastest known time around Mount Rainier. He did like the whole Wonderland Trail, which Elisa and my wife and some others did as a group in 9 days. He did it in like under 20 hours and in a straight go. I mean, he's just an amazing runner. So anyways, we're going to see him again here in a minute in the presentation. So this is about running. And I know right now some of you are thinking, great, another sermon about like exercise or running. I don't even like to run. I don't like to walk. Like, I want an electric scooter. You know, they got those out there now. And so I know what you're thinking, and I completely empathize with you because I'm not really the runner either. Nikki's the runner, right? That's why I kind of have like the ammunition for the sermon. But what you're probably thinking, those of you that don't want to hear a sermon about running, is this verse. Proverbs 28. The wicked run when no one's chasing them. Yeah, running is silly. But alas, Paul has something else to say about running our race, right? So the question I want to ask us tonight is, are we racing? Okay, now are we running? Are we racing? And you're going to see in a second, that question isn't even the right question to ask. We're going to finish that question or fill that question out a little bit more as we get into the night. So these are the three scriptures that are like the core home-based scriptures that we're going to talk about tonight with many others thrown in. So my motivation for this race, for this sermon on racing, is because I spent countless hours sitting in a car waiting for Nikki to show up at a checkpoint. She's been running for a long, long time, okay? And this race was Badger Mountain in Tri-Cities. She's running a 100-miler here. And I had hours upon hours to wait for her at checkpoints. And so it's really kind of crazy when you see like the race like as an observer unfolding around you, and you see like as the race progresses, the condition of people coming through the race at the checkpoints. Like it's pretty amazing to watch the change of the human body and psyche as people get into these races. I can't help but think, like while I'm waiting, like all these applications, when I see someone who just like can't even get up anymore, I'm like, man, this crazy, this race is just killing this person. And just like, you can't help but like see these spiritual connections all over the place. And so because of all that time to sit and think in a car, like this, it's inevitable that you can't go here, right? So let's start with this verse. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, it says, this is Paul. Most of what I'm going to be quoting here is Paul tonight. It says, do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may win. Okay, and we're going to stop there. Run in such a way that you may win. You know when I asked you a second ago, are you racing? That wasn't the full question. The full question is, are you racing to win? That's a different animal. Like, it's kind of easy to join a race and do really bad, right? It's easy to do a race and just like finish and call it good and say, hey, I raced. But Paul is admonishing us to run as if to win. What does it look like? Have you ever, I don't know if you've done individual sports before, but maybe if you just even see interviews with like elite level athletes who are trying to like actually like podium, like win their events, it's crazy hard. Like it hurts the whole race. Like the pros running the marathon, it looks easy for them, right? Like they're running, they're like light on their feet, they're just like stretching out this stride. But the entire time their body is screaming at them to stop, the whole time. In fact, Greg LeMond, a cyclist, the only American to have ever won the Tour de France, you might get, said, it never gets easier, you just go faster, right? That's the nature of being at a level of like to win the race. Like no matter how much stronger you get, you just have to push harder. Like that's just the nature of where we're at. So thinking of running the race with that mindset, that's kind of a game changer because that means it's gonna hurt. Like to race that hard, it's gonna like, you're gonna like kind of be dying, like in a way, to run that hard. And right now some people are like, oh, Jesse's making me feel uncomfortable. I don't wanna race that. I don't know what he's talking about. Yeah, it's supposed to be uncomfortable. Like we're gonna see that in these verses. That's my point this evening, is to not let us off the hook on what it means to be racing to win. So let's finish the verse. Verse 25, everyone who competes in the games exercises self-control in all things. They then do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So I'm going to stop there for a second. Self-control in all things. Have you ever hung out with someone who's like a super athlete or known someone who is a super athlete? What would you say you know about them? Like, are they defined by that thing? Kind of. If you're an elite level athlete, that is what you're known, like your life is like built around that thing. Your diet, your exercise program, the time you wake up in the morning, the time you go to bed, the time you get off work, the time you've left to do your workout, everything revolves around your sport or your discipline. Like everything, it consumes your life. For us at home, we have 2 calendars. We've got like the stuff we do calendar and Nikki's workout calendar. And usually the way it works is Nikki's workout calendar, like she's got her race on it and like her plan trajectory into that race is there, and then the home calendar gets built around it, which is cool. Like that's the way it is. But that's the focus of the athlete is like that's the self-control. Like everything is structured to it. Spiritually, we should be the same way, right? Okay, and they do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we imperishable. So the people that are running ultra runs, what are they running for? Like if someone's running, they want their prize. They're running for this. It's just a belt buckle, okay? Every 100-miler has a different belt buckle. Like that's the thing, right? But you know like that's not really the thing that they're going for. Like everyone wants like the badge of honor belt buckle, but running an endurance sport does something to the human body. It tests you. It tests you, and it pushes you to your absolute limits. That's what our race is supposed to do for us as well. Like that's God's plan for our race, is to push us and test us. Continuing verse 26, therefore I run in such a way as not without aim. I box in such a way as not beating the air, but I discipline my body and make it my slave, so that after I preach to others, I myself will not be disqualified. So this is very intentional. When he says not without aim, it's very structured. Okay, so if you think about what this means for the athlete, they want to know exactly what they're getting into. So before someone runs like an ultra race, they want to answer a couple questions. How long is this race, right? Is this a 100-miler? Okay, I can do the 100, not me. I can do the 100. Okay, what elevation is this run at? 10,000 feet? I don't want that one. That one's not much oxygen at 10,000 feet. I'll do the one at 5,000. What's the temperature going to be like? You're running all night. Like, is it going to be like 20 at night? Like, do I want to do that? You want to know everything you can about the course. You want to know the profile of the course. This is the profile of the Western States 100, which is like the Super Bowl of ultra runners. So it's 100 miles, 18,090 feet of elevation. You have to throw in the 90 in there because like every foot counts when you're doing an ultra race. Like you feel it all. 22,970 of descending. And this year the record got broken, 14 hours and 9 minutes by this guy. He's won it the last 2 years, although last year he got lost, found his way back, still won. So what does this mean for us as Christians, though? Let me ask you a question. When you were baptized, or when you decided that you were going to follow Christ, whenever that was, did you know that as you're coming up out of the water over here, did you know that you had just signed up for the hardest ultra race known to mankind? Did you know that? Is that scary to think about right now? Like, are you sweating a little bit, like thinking about it? I am, because that's a hard race. We signed up for it. And I think a lot of times when we're baptized or when we choose to follow Jesus, we don't know the whole story yet. And sometimes we can go a long, long time before we finally comprehend what that means. But that's exactly what we signed up for. We signed up for a really, really hard race that few people are going to even finish. But we have a helper. We have an advocate. We have God on our side, right? If it was up to us, we would fail terribly. But we've got God to push us through, right? Why would God send us a comforter if we didn't need comfort, right? Like, it's not going to be easy for us. It's not going to be peaceful. Like, there's this like conception when you're baptized, like it's like, oh, I'm with God now. I'm going to be blessed. Life's going to be good. Like, there's, the whole prosperity gospel exists on that premise of now you're going to be blessed. But we just started the race. Like, yes, there's blessings in the race, and we're going to go into those. But like, it's not going to be like, oh, your paths are now made straight, right? No, we're just getting to the hills. Right? All right, let's look at this verse here. In Hebrews chapter 12, says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses," and then I stopped reading right there because since the therefore is there, we got to figure out what it's there for, right? So let's back up to chapter 11 just a second and figure out who this cloud of witnesses is. So just real quick, this cloud of witnesses is basically like the race highlight reel of all these Bible greats, okay? And it talks about like stuff that they did that was awesome and challenging and the hardships that they had to deal with. But, he talks about Abel and Enoch and Noah, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Israelites crossing the Red Sea, the walls of Jericho, Rahab, and many others. And I want to actually read chapter 11, verse 36 and 37. Chapter 11, verse 36 and 7 says, "Others suffered mocking and flogging, and even chains and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn in two, they were killed with the sword, they went about in skins of sheep and goats, destitute, afflicted, mistreated." Man. We signed up for that? Is that what we signed up for? Are we sure? If it has to be so, that's what we signed up for. Like, that's how hard the race can get and has gotten for people. It's pretty crazy to imagine. Remember I was saying that we kind of have this idea that it's supposed to be easy to be like with God and doing this race because we got Him with us. It's like when you're ultra running, the magazines make it look super easy, like super cool, fun, right? Like, look at this guy. This looks awesome. It's out, it's a sunny day, right? He looks like he's super fit. Like, you get exercise, you get out there. He's going to see the world, right? Well, yeah, I mean, it looks awesome. These guys make it look awesome too. Everyone's smiling when they trail run. Isn't that amazing? Like, everyone's super happy to be out there. You see beautiful places. Look at those canyons in Utah. But they don't really show the pictures of what the race looks like. What does the race really look like? It's messy. Is our race messy? It better be messy. Otherwise, we're not racing. This is what it looks like when you're racing. This is Gary Robbins, the guy with the fastest known time around Mount Rainier and many other accomplishments when he was trying to complete the Barclay Marathon. He was the only one to have been close to finishing this year, I believe, and he missed the cutoff after hours and hours and all night being out there in the rain, the wet, being swept down a river, and then being lost. He missed the cutoff to the final finish by like 5 minutes. And afterwards, he just crumpled in despair and just laid there. Just laid there. He was done. This picture cracks me up. This is a pretty common face, that you see when you're spectating these ultra races. This looks more like the real race, not the magazine cover, right? It's not so glamorous. It's a little bit more work. As I've gotten a chance to pace Nikki and also some of her friends in different races, I've seen quite a bit of different things as you're running that show like the messiness of the race. Like, you'll be running, and when you start pacing someone, it's at night. So 50 miles in, you start pacing someone, and at first when I heard I was going to be pacing her friend Maggie, I was nervous because I was like, oh man, Maggie's a really fast runner. She's way faster than me. I'm not even like at her level at all. So 50 miles in, though, I join her to help her. And but running ultra race 50 miles in isn't really necessarily running anymore, At that point, it's like surviving. It's like it's pivoting a little bit from running to like surviving. So we're walking, and she's clearly like starting to get tired, and I'm worried about her because she's not going that fast, and she might not make the cutoff. Like at this pace, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, ooh, we got to hit the gas here, and it's so bad that like we get to a fallen over log on the trail. She kind of like steps over it, and then just kind of leans against the tree, and just lays there for a second. Oh, this is so nice. Like just to lean on this tree. It's like, okay, let's get going. You gotta move that other foot. She's like, yeah, I got one, okay, let's go. And she kind of keeps walking. And like, that's what the race looks like. It's not glamorous. It's like, you're just trying to stay upright, okay? That's what racing looks like. I've heard people puking in the middle of the night, right? Like, people can't eat at the aid station anymore. It just gets really bad out there. But that's real life, though, right? That's what a spiritual a race kind of can look like, right? It's not just like this easy thing. It should be pushing us. We should be pushing ourselves so hard that like spiritually we feel like throwing up, right? Like that's kind of a harsh way to say it. I'm sorry, but that's what it is to be like trying to win the race. You're running that hard. You're pushing yourself to the absolute limit that you can, which can sustain the whole entirety of the race. Like you're at that line. You're dancing on that line to win a race. That's where you're at. All right, let's finish this. I never actually finished the verse. I got to the therefore and stopped. Okay, so it says, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that's set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. Man, I'm so glad this verse is in here. Like, look, it tells us that we're running this endurance race. Like, I'm not just making up this endurance thing. Like, this is the real deal. This is what we signed up for. But Jesus is what? He's the founder and the finisher. He's the beginning and the end. And what is his joy? Who for the joy that was set before him, it wasn't the cross. Who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising its shame. What was his joy? We just read it right before that. Because he finished it. His joy was that he finished it so that we could finish it. That was his joy. I'm so thankful that we have the example of Jesus who taught us how to finish so that we could also finish and not grow weary. You see, he endured it so that we would have that knowledge that we're not in it alone. Because if we were in it alone, we would quit. We would quit. I mean, honestly, if he didn't finish the race, like we wouldn't even be here tonight. There's no reason, right? Why go racing, right? Like because he finished, we are here, and we can finish. And not only that, but because of his strength, we can not grow weary. We can use and leverage his strength. So 2 Corinthians, so we do not lose heart, though our outer self is wasting away. Our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. So this light momentary affliction, like this is like the mental twisting that you kind of do to survive the race, right? When you're prepared for what you're in for, then you can have the strength and the resolve to face it, right? So when you have this concept that this race is this endurance race, when Paul says it's this light momentary affliction, like if Paul said it was light, like that means he knows we can do it. He knows that we can endure it because it's like this temporary thing. Like that's big. So like whenever something hits you hard and just kind of wakes you up, you put it in perspective, right? It doesn't have to be the end of the world. Like, consider Paul, like saying, okay, I hit a wall here, okay? But this can be a light, momentary affliction. Like, let's look past this and let's move past this. Hebrews 10:36. For you have need of endurance, so that when you have done the will of God, you may receive what is promised. John 12. Whoever loves his life loses it, and whoever hates his life in this world will keep it for eternal life. See, like, we're not getting let off the hook on these things, right? That's why these are here. This is real, how hard this is going to be, because otherwise they wouldn't tell us these things. 1 Peter, it's a little cut off. But rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed. If you're insulted for the name of Christ, you're blessed, because the Spirit of glory and of God rests upon you. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God. You know, how hard is it for us to show that we're Christians? Like at work, we kind of we want to stay quiet, right? Because it's weird to tell people you're Christians at work. You're risking something by telling people you're Christians at work. Not just maybe humiliation or being left out of certain circles, but if you broadcast it too closely, people might complain about you. But so what do? We say oh, I'm just gonna take it easy and take my foot off the gas. I do it for sure, right? It's easy. This world, Satan wants us to back off. But the thing is, I don't know if we should. I don't know if we can, right? We're supposed to be insulted for the name of Christ. It says if you're insulted, but in reality, if you're sharing Christ, if you're exuding Christ, you're going to get insulted for it. It's going to go with the territory. But we don't want to ruffle feathers, right? That's the reason for me wanting to do the sermon tonight of running this race to win. I think that we let ourselves we let off the gas, right? It's safe. It's a comfy place to be in, and we're not allowed to live there. We're not meant to live there. And I'm so glad that James exists. I love James. So when he says this here, it makes sense now in light of what we just read. So count it joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Count it joy when you meet trials. Okay, a lot of us have heard this verse before. This isn't new. But what is the trials? What does it lead to? The trials kind of tells you who you are. The trials tells you, I failed at this. Or, wow, I'm stronger than I thought. I made it through this. Right? It tells us where we're at, these trials. And in the endurance world, the trials is why people do it. You want to test your limits and see where you fail. Right? That's when you learn something about yourself. Can I do 100 miles? That sounds crazy. I don't know. I want to try. You make it 60 miles, and you end up crying in the middle of the night, and your husband's pacing you and saying, oh, this hill's not so bad. Whoops. That's happened. Sometimes you find out that you're not as strong as you thought you were when you're tested. And in the endurance racing world, that's fine. You want to just find what you're made of. In the spiritual world, if you fail, if you don't finish the race, you die. Right? We have to embrace these trials and find the joy in them, because through the trial we're producing steadfastness, the resolve and the strength and the drive to be able to finish the race and keep going. Hallelujah. I want to know. I want to finish the race. I got to know. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. He goes on to say in verse 12, blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. Okay, so now that we've got these trials and we're starting to get this strength and this resolve, if we're remaining steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life. Does this sound familiar? This crown of life? Does it kind of sound like an imperishable wreath, which God has promised to those who love him? Let no one say when he is tempted, I'm being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted, and this is an important verse here, each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it's conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it's fully grown, brings forth death. What is it that will make us want to quit this race? When Nikki's out there running in the middle of the night and it's taking hours to go a few miles because the lights are going out. There's no more gas in the tank. What is it that makes us quit the race? It's our own desire to quit. We're just done. We can't do it. We throw the towel in. The desire is to go lay down in the grass and curl up in a ball. You know how many people we've come across in the middle of the night curled up in balls on the side of trails? Kind of crazy. It just happens. You check on them. Hey, man, you okay? Oh, what? Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I just had to get some sleep, man. I just couldn't take it anymore. Thanks for waking me up, though. I'll keep going. Right? That happens. We saw a girl with her pacer off the side of the trail. Girl's rolled up in a ball on the side of the trail in the middle of the night. The pacer's just sitting there waiting for her to get her stuff back together so they can keep going. When she comes around, we'll keep running. That's the desire to quit, to roll up in that ball and to stay there. That's real. We want to quit. And when we quit, we do not finish the race. Do you know what DNF is? Did not finish. And in the racing world, that's the one thing you don't want. Let me blow up and have a bad time because I went out too hard, too early, and just couldn't sustain it. That's fine. Let me have a mechanical on my bike and the wheel breaks and I can't finish the race. But a DNF because I gave up? That's sad. And in the spiritual world, that's death. Just a little bit more on DNF before I go to the next slide. So I'm running out of time. The reason why this is the most important part of my sermon tonight is talking about the DNF because this race is hard, it's going to claim people. Like I said, I've been coming here since I was in 4th grade. I've seen a lot of faces come through those double doors in the back, same doors that have always been there. They haven't changed the doors. I've seen a lot of people come through. I remember being at this pulpit, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same one, although I can't say I remember for sure, as a 12-year-old boy with a bunch of other 12-year-old boys for a preacher training little program we went through. And it was awesome. That was the first time I really felt like I got to kind of preach a mini sermon. When I think back to the faces of the boys standing to the left and to the right, about half of them are already DNFs. My brother and my sister are DNFs. There's a lot of people that are DNFs. There's people in this room, maybe right now, that are here that are DNFs. That's scary. And that's why this harsh message, right? It's not harsh, but a real message of this is what it is. Because the consequence is death. But there's hope. So be encouraged. Hebrews 12, for the moment all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who've been trained by it. Therefore, lift your drooping hands, strengthen your weak knees, and make straight paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. That is encouraging. That is powerful. I don't have time to go through some of these others. 2 Timothy chapter 4, this is Paul kind of putting a bookend on his earlier statement about racing. At the end of his life, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness. He's getting his imperishable wreath, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me also, but to all, that's us, to all who have loved his appearing. That is good news. Now, Paul is an awesome example because Paul gives us all this information, which is critical, but he was not perfect. In fact, I don't know what he was dealing with really. Like, we don't know the details, but it was something. Like, kind of summarizing a little bit out of Romans, he says, "For we know that law is spiritual, but I am of the flesh, sold under sin. For I do not understand my own actions. For I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate." And then in verse 21, "So I find it to be law that when I want to do right, evil lies close at hand." Like, Paul wasn't perfect, man. But he was racing, and he finished his race, right? So the comparison for the ultra race is like you're running as hard as you can, trying to do the best you possibly can, right? And you're going to hit roots, and it's just going to lay you out. And you're going to get up and hit another root. You're going to go through mud, and you're just going to slip out. You're going to miss a turn, a marker, and you're going to go the wrong way for a few miles and realize, I'm all alone out here. Turn around, find your way back to the last turn, and go the other way, and find you're back on course. Like, that's going to happen to us, but we're still racing despite our failures and our setbacks. But what happens when we just get to the next checkpoint and tell the person at the aid station, you know what, I'm dropping? That's the DNF, right? So we're going to expect these setbacks in the race. That's not the end for us. Like, we can push through. I'm going to close on this one video. This is a video I took of Nikki when she was completing her race, her 100-mile race. And the reason I want to share this video, it's only like a minute long, is because I feel like it just sums up so much of what it might look like, figuratively speaking, at the end of our race. Okay, you're going to see that she's on the top of this hill, coming down. She's been running all night. She's been running 27 hours through the night, down these switchbacks, down to the finishing line. She is dead tired. All she wants is to be done. Like, that's it. Just get me to the finish line. I am done. And when she gets there, there's a race director who built this crazy course, who's out there with binoculars, like looking up the hill, waiting for his 100-milers to get to the finish line. And he's excited. And when you see the video, I don't know, for me at least, I just can't help but see these connections and feel like it's an amazing thing. Hopefully this works. Okay, Sean, audio, you good? Okay, cool. And since this is YouTube, I'm going to mute right after the channel because I don't know what ads they serve up next. See the tent down there? That's the finish line.
Right here. You got a 100-miler!
Yeah! Yeah! Nice.
All right. Cheers, because the race is over, right? You don't have to hurt anymore. Like, it's over, and the race director's there with open arms saying, like, yes, you did it. You did it. So, let me see if I can get out of this now. So that's all I got for you tonight. If there's anyone here that is thinking, you know what? Maybe I misunderstood the race I signed up for. You know, I've been coming to church. I didn't realize that this was my race. I didn't realize it was supposed to be hard enough to spiritually hurt. Maybe you think that, you know what? When I look around, I'm going through the motions, but I'm not racing to win right now. I'm just kind of coming to church and being a good person. That's not racing to win. That's not. I'm looking at myself just as much right now too. I'm not letting anyone off the hook. If you need prayers, if you need strengthened, if you need anything, come forward while we sing this song and fight the fight and just keep running. Thanks.